I wasn't even recording. Alright, in this video we are going to be putting some cam bearings in our little 339 stroker block. In the last video got all cleaned and prepped and painted. It's ready to start assembling, and yeah, I'm going to show you an easy way to do cam bearings. It's not that complicated. Just got a couple little things you got to watch out for, and take your time and enjoy the process. Obviously this is something you can have your machine shop do while they have the block and they're machining it. Usually they do that as just part of the machining process, but I asked them to leave them out because I want to put my own in and show you guys how to do it. Just make a how-to video on this, so hopefully someone can learn something from this. And I got Shelman today in the shop with me hanging out, so I might have him run the camera a little bit. And it's kind of cool, get to teach him how to put in cam bearings, because he's never been a part of that process yet. All right, a couple things you're going to need to do this is a block to put the bearings in. You'll need your cam bearings, and you'll need the cam bearing installation tool. Now this is just a universal one. If all you build is small blocks, you can get one made just for small blocks. But I got the universal one, that way it fits about everything. All right, the bearings we're using, King engine bearings. They're not really super special as far as the cam bearing goes. Just that's the bearings I'm using and everything else. So I've got King bearings. Now you got 5 bearings, and they all have their certain place they have to be. On the box, it tells you the part number and where they go in the block. Now, number 1 bearing is the only bearing that has the 2 holes. So you'll know which is number 1 because it's got the 2 holes. If I go ahead and mark it, 2 and 5 are the same bearing, and 3 and 4 are the same bearing. As far as orientation, which way they go in first, that doesn't matter, but you do have to pay attention to where your oil hole goes. Now for this video, I'm going to be mentioning 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock position, and 7:30 or 8 o'clock position, and that is with the block upside down, just the way it is. So the bottom of the block, which is actually the top, the way it's sitting, will be 12, this will be 6, and so on and so forth. Now here's where I'm going to try to just simplify this. Like I said, our block upside down, you got 12 and 6 o'clock. Now with number 1, you'll want your oil holes facing 4:30 and 7:30. 2, 3, and 4, you'll want your oil hole to be facing at 7:30. And number 5, you'll want it pointing straight down. Since your holes will be on the bottom side, you won't be able to see them very well once they get put into the installer. So as they're sitting there, I've got them all the way I want them. I just come up here and make a mark at the 12 o'clock position. That way I can keep an eye on it from the top, get them lined up good. And it doesn't have to be exactly 7:30. It doesn't have to be 7, 8. It could be 7:29. It don't matter. It's just got to be real close, somewhere in that vicinity. Now before we put the bearings in the block, we want to make sure that the bearing bosses are dry and clean. You don't want any oil behind the bearing, because it could cause it to spin if you get a little tight or something like that on your bearing clearance. So you want to put them in dry. Now where you can really screw up on this is if you drive your bearings in too far. You want your oil hole to be lined up with the groove. Alright, now I've got number 5 bearing all set up. I'll get it started down in here and get my tool on it. It can be a little aggravating. Get my mark lined up to top. You want to make sure you get this centering cone in that first bore real good. Tighten up my nut a little bit. Alright, I like to give it a real good tap right off the bat. Make sure you're ready to go. Now you got to double check to see where you're at. It's hard to see, but I've got my bearing lined up with the hole pretty good. Just no good way to get the camera in there. And now I've got my number 4 bearing. Get it in there and get it turned right. Now, I'll admit that that tool could be a little bit frustrating at times, getting in and out of there, but just take your time with it, and yeah, it'll go together. So I just grabbed a random camshaft off my shelf to make sure it would fit, and everything is fine. It goes in there nice and smooth and turns and does what it's supposed to. You just got to make sure you get your bearings in far enough and get your holes lined up with that groove around there, and just take your time with it. I think we've got everything covered on installing cam bearings on your small block Chevy. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. So until next time,
y'all keep your square bodies rolling.
All right, we'll see you later.